Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lin. Namaskar. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. India to send 7 multi-party delegations abroad to advocate India's counter-terrorism stance after Operation Sindoor. US President Trump to speak with the Russian President Putin on Monday to push for an end to the Russia-Ukraine conflict. UK Prime Minister Starmer to host EU leaders in London for talks on strengthening post-Brexit ties. A deal is expected. Pope Leo XIV is installed as the 267th leader of the Catholic Church. He urges charity and unity and condemns exploitative economic systems. India's Deputy Chairman of the Rajya Sabha, Harivansh, attends the event on behalf of the people of India. On the second and final day of his visit to Gujarat, India's Home Minister Amit Shah led the Tanga Yatra in Sanand in Ahmedabad district, and he was joined by a huge crowd of enthusiastic citizens. The Yatra was organized to honor the Indian Armed Forces for their role in Operation Sindoor, highlighting national pride and solidarity with the armed forces. Locals in Shopian held a Tiranga Yatra on Sunday. This is to honor the Indian Armed Forces for their successful completion of Operation Sindoor. The rally began at Batpora and it concluded at the Clock Tower in Shopian. It was led by the BJP leader and the J&K Waqf Board executive member, Javed Ahmed Qadri. In Jammu's Riyasi, citizens gathered in large numbers for a spectacular Tiranga Yatra organized as part of the Yatra of India's Glory. The rally paid tributes to the courage of India's armed forces and highlighted the unity and spirit of the nation. In a remarkable display of empowerment and leadership, women took the lead, marching at the forefront of the rally. Draped in the tricolour and echoing slogans of national unity, they symbolized the rising strength and pivotal role of women in shaping the future of the nation. In a stirring display of patriotism and unity, a grand Tiranga rally was held in West Indian city of Nagpur. This is to commemorate the success of Operation Sindoor. The Maharashtra Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis led this rally, organized in solidarity with the nation's armed forces. In honor of the valor of the Indian Armed Forces for the success of Operation Sindoor, a bike Tiranga rally was also organized in the financial capital of India, Mumbai. India is sending 7 multi-party delegations to different countries to present India's stance on counter-terrorism and Operation Sindoor post the Pahalgam terror attack. The all-party delegations will, in fact, soon engage with key nations under Operation Sindoor, reflecting India's collective resolve against terrorism. The 7 all-party delegations will visit various nations, engaging with foreign ministers, officials, think tanks and political leaders. BJP's Baidyanath Panda will lead visits to Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain and Algeria, while BJP's Ravi Shankar Prasad heads to the UK, France, Germany, EU, Italy and Denmark. The JDU's Sanjay Kumar Jha will cover Indonesia, Malaysia, South Korea, Japan and Singapore with his delegation. Shiv Sena's Shrikant Shinde leads another delegation, and that will be visiting the UAE, Liberia, DR, the Democratic Republic of Congo and Sierra Leone. Also, the Congress's Shashi Tharoor will lead a delegation to the US, Panama, Guyana, Brazil and Colombo. The DMK's Kanimodi will be traveling to Spain, Greece, Slovenia, Latvia and Russia with her delegation. Now, finally, the NCP's Supriya Sule will be leading her delegation to Egypt, Qatar, Ethiopia and South Africa. So these delegations, as we said earlier, will be meeting foreign ministry officials, think tanks, strategic affairs thinkers and political leadership of the respective countries. The Directorate General of Foreign Trade in the Ministry of Commerce and Industry has imposed new port restrictions on certain goods imported from Bangladesh to India. According to the notification issued on May 17, the import of ready-made garments, processed food items, fruit drinks, cotton waste, plastic goods and wooden furniture will be restricted through special land ports. These goods can only be imported via Nahava, Sheva and Kolkata seaports, with restrictions on several land customs stations in Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, Mizoram and parts of West Bengal. However, the restrictions do not apply to goods in transit to Nepal and Bhutan or imports of fish, LPG, edible oil and crushed stone from Bangladesh. India's External Affairs Minister Jai Shankar will visit the Netherlands, Denmark and Germany from the 19th to the 24th of May. And during the visit, the EAM will meet the leadership of these countries and hold discussions with his counterparts as well on the entire gamut of bilateral relations, regional as well as global issues of mutual interest. A devastating fire broke out in Gulzar House under the jurisdiction of Mir Chowk police station in India's Hyderabad, killing 17 people. The flames quickly engulfed the area, prompting a swift response from fire and rescue teams who managed to save several people trapped inside. 11 fire tenders were pressed into service immediately on the information. Among the deceased are 3 women and 2 children, and the injured have been shifted to nearby hospitals. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has expressed deep grief over the loss of lives because of this tragedy in Hyderabad. In a social media post, the Prime Minister conveyed his condolences to those who have lost their loved ones and wished a speedy recovery to the injured. The Prime Minister also announced an ex gratia from the Prime Minister's National Relief Fund of 200,000 rupees each to the next of kin of the deceased and 50,000 rupees to those injured. Britain hopes to secure a reset deal with the European Union on Monday that would boost defence and security cooperation and smoothen the arrival of people and also food into the bloc. That's what the chief negotiator said on Sunday.
We are in the very final hours. I always expected it to go to the wire because we are negotiating extremely hard in the national interest. And what we are looking to deliver tomorrow is a deal that's going to be good for jobs, that's going to help to secure our borders, and is going to help to lower household bills. That's the negotiation I'm still in these final hours.
Britain's EU negotiator, Nick Thomas Simmons, his comments, they came as the British Prime Minister Starmer is set to host the EU leaders in London on Monday in the most significant effort to reset ties since Britain left the EU in 2020 after 4 years of acrimonious divorce talks. 2 people died and several others were injured after a Mexican Navy training ship hit New York's Brooklyn Bridge. This happened late on Saturday night. The New York City Mayor, Eric Adams, informed that the Navy ship, which is named Cuauhtémoc, it had lost its power and crashed into the bridge. The Mexican ship had 277 people on board and 22 of them sustained injuries.
The coordination was extremely important and it was executed to the best of our ability to minimize any loss of life. Our hearts go out to the family members, and many family members are going to be traveling here from Mexico. We want to make sure we collaborate with the ambassador and his team to give them the proper information at the hospital.
In his inaugural Mass, Pope Leo XIV vowed to preserve the Catholic Church's heritage and not to rule like an autocrat. Several world leaders attended the Mass. The US Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio met the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on the heels of Washington-organized talks between Ukraine and Russia in Istanbul. Pope Leo also met the Ukrainian President Zelensky. The Deputy Chairman of the Upper House of Parliament, Harivansh Narayan Singh, who is leading the Indian delegation, met Pope Leo at the ceremony. And earlier, Pope Leo XIV received the pallium and the fisherman's ring, which is the traditional papal regalia, as he was officially installed as the leader of the world's 1.4 billion Catholics.
In this our time, we still see too much discord, too many wounds caused by hatred, violence, prejudice, the fear of difference, and an economic paradigm that exploits the earth's resources and marginalizes the poorest. For our part, we want to be a small leaven of unity, communion, and fraternity.
Updates now on the Russia-Ukraine conflict and the US President Donald Trump. He said that he's going to be speaking separately to the Russian President Vladimir Putin and the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. This is to push for a ceasefire deal between the two countries. In a social media post, Donald Trump said that his call with Putin will take place on Monday. Trump's remarks came a day after the first Moscow-Kiev talks in 3 years failed to yield a ceasefire agreement. Putin had declined the invitation from Zelensky to attend Friday's talks, sending a lower-level delegation in his place. Following the talks, which led to an agreement to exchange 1,000 prisoners each, Ukraine's defense minister, Rustem Umerov, he said that the next step would be a meeting between Zelensky and Putin. Still to come here on DD India Live. Portugal holds snap election with the centre-right leading. At least 25 people are killed, dozens are injured in powerful storms and tornadoes in the United States. And Austria wins over Israel in the Eurovision Song Contest. You're watching DD India Live. My name is Mark Lynn. And it's Super Sunday for polls in Europe. Elections are happening in Romania, Poland and Portugal. Well, polling stations opened in Poland on Sunday for the first round of a tight presidential election that will be decisive for the future of the country's centrist government. There are 13 candidates in total, and the definitive results are expected only on Monday. Poland's runoff, expected on June 1, comes at a tense time for Europe, with ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict, the rising far-right populism, as well as strained ties with the US. Since 2023, ever since the former EU leader Donald Tusk's coalition came to power in 2023, key government initiatives have been blocked by the veto of the nationalist president Andrzej Duda. Well, Poland's president is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, and he steers foreign policy as well. He can introduce and veto legislation as well.
Because we want to maintain the continuity of power, because we support the complete return of democracy, so that there won't be, as in the Polish nomenclature, any brakeman, so that the government also has the support of the president.
And I would like for everyone to finally come together so that it's no longer us and them, but that someone who can unite people would come, because we are worth it.
Well, Romanians began voting on Sunday in a tense presidential election rerun, a tight race between a nationalist and a centrist that could reshape the direction of the country. Far-right candidate George Simeon comfortably topped the May 4 first round, gaining close to 41%. He faces pro-EU Bucharest Mayor Nixor Dan.
I have voted with thought towards the many people who are silent, fair and hardworking, and who, for a lot of time, have not felt represented. 2 weeks ago, Romanians voted for change. The question is, what sort of change? And I have voted for change which will bring prosperity and not one which will bring adventure and that discourage investment in Romania. I voted for a European direction and for good collaboration with our European partners and not for an isolation of Romania. And I voted for a society in which we can have a dialogue and not one in which we are divided.
Well, Simeon's first round win triggered the resignation of the leftist Prime Minister Marcel Ciolasu and the collapse of his pro-Western coalition government. Simeon has promised to redo the second round of the 2024 election if the Romanian public so desires. The polls had opened at 4 in the morning GMT and will close at 1800 hours GMT. And the exit polls will be published soon after. The results are expected later in the night. Portugal too is holding snap elections with the centre-right leading polls, with Prime Minister Luís Montenegro is tipped to win, and yet without securing a majority in Parliament. The final survey indicates the centre-right Democratic Alliance is ahead of the Socialist Party and is likely to pick up more seats. But once again, it's going to fall short of the 116 seats needed in Portugal's 230-seat parliament for a majority rule. And what's happened is that the far-right Chega party is on track also to finish third once more, making it a potential kingmaker, although Montenegro has refused to govern with a populist movement. Now, polling stations had opened at 7 in the morning, and the final results will be expected several hours later. Voters demand stability in the country. That's their main issue.
I hope we are getting a government that is capable of responding to the problems we have had and that it really manages to guide the country towards a good direction.
I hope that we will get stability, not the kind we'd like, but the best it can be.
An unstable spring weather system spawned tornadoes in the U.S. Midwest and Ohio River Valley, killing at least 25 people in Kentucky and Missouri and causing widespread damage to homes and property. At least half a dozen tornadoes touched down in Missouri and neighboring Illinois. A tornado also ripped through St. Louis, where, in addition to killing at least 5, it injured 38 and damaged 5,000 properties. In Argentina, the National Meteorological Service issued a red alert for the northern Buenos Aires province because of heavy rains. Severe flooding was seen in the city of Campana in Argentina, leading to mass evacuations. Residents there struggled to cope with the rising waters. The National Meteorological Service reported a rainfall between 150 and 250 millimeters between the cities of Zarate and Arrecifes. Now, it also warned that storms are constantly regenerating with more rain likely. Austria's artist JJ has won the Eurovision Song Contest 2025 in the Swiss host city of Basel. in the country's first victory since the bearded drag queen Conchita Wurst won in 2014. Now, this win was Austria's third in the competition following Conchita's success and Udo Jürgens' victory in 1966. Gurinder caught Chada, who's a British film director, talked exclusively to DD India correspondent Jaya Sinha at the Cannes Film Festival about collaborations with the Indian film industry.
What brought you Cannes? You have a special screening of your movie. Tell us about that.
Yes, I have made a new movie called Christmas Karma. It is my version of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. And my Scrooge is a very wealthy, very mean-spirited Indian businessman from Britain who is not very fond of poor people. So he has to learn empathy. But I'm super happy. It's a great cast. Yes.
So tell us about this co-production and how you're trying to mix both the cultures, India and UK, and just presenting on the global stage.
You see, you have to, I always say you make films from the inside out. And what am I on the inside? I'm Punjabi, I'm Indian, I'm British, I'm a Londoner, I'm all these different things. I'm married to an American. And all this comes to play on how I see the world. So for me, it's natural.
What do you think today? We have major presence in all of the festivals around the world. Indian cinema, Indian films, Indian actors doing really well. So what do you think about that? And also a plan to make a true masala Indian film with Indian actors. Nobody presented Aishwarya the way you presented. It was so beautiful in that film. So any plans for that?
I would love to do something around Punjabi music, and let's see, maybe this is something, I've been working on it, I just have to find the time to make it happen.
So with camera person, this is Jaya Sinha reporting for DD India from Cannes Film Festival.
Well, parts of Indonesia's Java Island, especially along the northern coast, are sinking at an alarming rate. This is causing more frequent tidal flooding, as some areas have sunk even below sea level in the last few years. Experts say that part of the problem is overpumping of groundwater, causing the soft ground to sink deeper. They're calling for more sustained solutions, sustainable ones that involve local communities to protect both people and nature.
The island of Java in Indonesia faces the threat of sinking because of several factors such as groundwater extraction and rising sea levels. In some places by the coast, the land is sinking by 10 to 18 centimeters per year, and experts warn that parts of the island will be underwater by 2035 if nothing is done. In Pekalongan, known as Indonesia's Batik City, about 100 families have moved away from Semonet village. Land compaction, abrasion, and continuously rising sea levels have wiped out the village completely, making it unlivable.
Dulu karena saya itu lahir di Semonet, itu sangat jauh sekali dari permukiman warga. Untuk menuju ke bibir pantai kurang lebih itu 700 meteran. Jadi untuk saat ini Semonet sudah tinggal kenangan karena sudah jadi lautan semua.
Pekalongan is home to hundreds of small and medium-scale batik producers. The industry uses a lot of groundwater, which contributes to the sinking of the area. The city is built on young sediment, so extraction of groundwater causes the land surface to fall lower and lower below sea level.
Dampak di Pekalongan sebenarnya yang terbesar itu sebenarnya rob. Cuma daerah-daerah yang kena dampak rob itu juga banyak perajin batiknya. Penggunaan air tanah itu kan harus diminimal, apalagi nanti ada efek untuk masa depannya.
To preserve the cultural heritage of Pekalongan, players in the batik industry must first be aware of the threats that could wipe out their workshops.
Harapannya itu ya tetap ini batik sebagai warisan budaya tak benda dan sudah diakui UNESCO. Generasi penerus inilah yang nantinya akan meneruskan budaya kita.
Without this awareness and collaborative effort from the government and public, it is not impossible that Pekalongan will cease to exist in the future. The sinking of Java Island among other reasons, is also a catalyst that prompted the Indonesian government to create a new political capital in East Kalimantan. The new capital is estimated to have lower risk for natural disasters such as flooding and tsunamis.
Well, that's all we have in this edition of DD India Live. Let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, the latest news and updates are available on the DD India mobile app. Scan the QR code on your screen now and download it. It's available both in Android and iOS. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. My name is Mark Lin. Thank you for watching DD India Live. Namaskar.